Bernie Sanders reportedly allocated $221,000 for private jet expenses during his Fighting Oligarchy tour. The New York Post notes that Joe Biden is facing challenges in securing speaking engagements, as Bernie Sanders reportedly allocated $221,000 for private jet expenses during his Fighting Oligarchy tour. The New York Post notes that Joe Biden is facing challenges in securing speaking engagements, as he is requesting $300,000 per speech. George Clooney expressed the opinion that a Democratic primary should have been held after Biden exited the race.
The Washington Post has published a report indicating that Trump's choice for the U.S. Attorney position in Washington, D.C., has made over 150 appearances on Russian state media. The Russia-associated Pravda network has been referenced on platforms such as Wikipedia, large language models, and X. Furthermore, Ukrainian President Zelensky has stated that Ukraine possesses evidence demonstrating China's provision of weapons to Russia.
Global Payments is set to purchase WorldPay for a sum of $24.25 billion and will also sell off its Issuer Solutions unit. ABB is considering the separation of its robotics division to become a distinct publicly traded entity. OpenAI is in discussions to acquire Windsurf for approximately $3 billion.
Trump and Meloni express optimism about the possibility of a U.S. trade agreement with Europe. Trump mentions that the U.S. and China are engaged in trade discussions and is optimistic that a resolution will be achieved soon. He asserts with absolute certainty that a U.S. trade deal with the EU will be finalized. Newsom declares a lawsuit against Trump's tariffs, highlighting the potential financial losses of billions for California. In another development, Indonesia plans to suggest a $10 billion increase in U.S. energy imports during tariff negotiations.
The Trump administration has paused a $5 billion offshore wind project in New York while it is still under construction. Trump has issued a memo that prevents undocumented immigrants from accessing Social Security benefits. Furthermore, a former Pentagon spokesman, who is linked to an online initiative targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion, has been requested to step down, according to an official statement.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, is set to reduce its oversight of financial firms and decrease its emphasis on fintech, as part of the ongoing downsizing efforts under Trump's administration, which have resulted in nearly 90% of the CFPB's workforce being cut. The Trump administration is seeking a new location for the Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD, and has put the current HUD building up for sale as part of a broader strategy to sell off properties. Furthermore, the U.S. State Department is closing an office dedicated to combating foreign disinformation.
Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy's upcoming Star Wars movie has been officially named Star Wars: Starfighter, and is scheduled for a theatrical release in May 2027. Glenn Powell will co-write and star in a Judd Apatow comedy centered around a country western star. Furthermore, Star Wars animated series featuring Darth Maul will be available on Disney Plus next year, with Sam Witwer providing the voice for the villain.
Trump has reversed regulations designed to reduce arsenic and mercury pollution. Researchers indicate that approximately 15% of the global cropland is contaminated with toxic metals. In response to an increase in bear attacks, Japan has simplified the process for hunters to target bears.
Variety has announced that the Pacific Rim television series, produced by Legendary and written by Eric Heiserer, is set to be developed by Amazon. Wendy's expressed a significant amount of respect for Katy Perry following a controversial post that suggested sending her back to space, although the fast food chain did not issue a formal apology. Former President Trump has appointed Fox News host Mark Levin to serve on the Homeland Security Advisory Council.
Chinese scientists have issued a warning that the leading rice-producing countries are experiencing the most severe heavy metal pollution globally. Researchers predict that climate change will render rice toxic. In the United States, a study has revealed that toothpaste is extensively contaminated with lead and various other metals. A project has commenced in the UK aimed at extracting carbon from the ocean. China has set up the globe's inaugural 3-satellite constellation positioned in the space between Earth and the Moon. In another development, Chinese robots participated in the world's first humanoid half-marathon, competing against humans, but ultimately fell significantly behind. China has created a potent non-nuclear hydrogen explosive, which holds military applications for executing precise thermal strikes.
Ukraine has imposed a ban on Chinese companies for allegedly assisting Russia in missile production. Despite this, China refutes President Zelensky's accusation of supplying weapons to Russia. Just a day prior, Zelensky claimed that China is indeed providing arms to Russia. A source indicates that the Trump administration was prepared to acknowledge Russian control over Crimea as part of a strategy to conclude the Ukraine conflict, while the U.S. is reportedly offering to reduce sanctions on Russia in a peace proposal for Ukraine. The Trump administration has replaced its COVID-19 website with a detailed discussion on the lab leak theory. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, has reportedly directed its staff to put on hold all new cases related to transgender discrimination, according to employees. Trump officials have attributed a recent confrontation with Harvard to an error, as the Wall Street Journal reports that the Trump administration is considering withdrawing an additional $1 billion in funding from the university due to its anger.
Sam Altman acknowledges that using polite phrases like please and thank you with ChatGPT results in the unnecessary expenditure of millions of dollars in computing resources. OpenAI's latest AI models designed for reasoning tend to produce more false information. 3 days ago, OpenAI introduced a technology capable of reasoning with images. Moody's suggests that investments in generative AI could enhance the potential for co-working within the financial sector. Furthermore, Wikipedia is providing AI developers with its data to combat bot scrapers.
EU lawmakers are being provided with anti-spying phone pouches for their upcoming visit to Hungary. The Texas House has given the green light to establish a new state cybersecurity command at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Phishers are exploiting Google OAuth to impersonate Google in a DKIM replay attack.
DHL plans to stop sending packages valued at more than $800 to customers in the United States worldwide. Ford has decided to pause the delivery of its vehicles to China due to the imposition of tariffs. The South China Morning Post, SCMP, has made remarks suggesting that the threats of tariffs from the United States could present an opportunity for India to focus on manufacturing locally, potentially leading to a significant Make in India initiative. A month prior, Reuters had reported that India was considering reducing tariffs on over half of the imports it receives from the United States, according to sources, in an effort to protect its own export market. There has been a significant 366% increase in chip shipments to Malaysia as a result of stricter measures against the smuggling of NVIDIA AI GPUs, in anticipation of upcoming sectoral tariffs. U.S. chip manufacturers are concerned that they are losing ground in China's AI market to Huawei. In response, Huawei has launched the Ascend 920 AI chip to address the gap created by the absence of NVIDIA's H20.
China is set to welcome Indonesia for significant diplomatic and defense discussions, marking a strategic shift towards Southeast Asia. During his Southeast Asia tour, Chinese President Xi Jinping urged Cambodia to oppose protectionism while Phnom Penh sought loans, emphasizing Beijing's dependability amid U.S. tariff threats. China's People's Liberation Army has been invited to participate in Vietnam's military parade, as both nations commit to strengthening their defense relations. Vietnam's Prime Minister praised the unique bond with the United States shortly after hosting President Xi.
Researchers in Israel have successfully utilized gene editing techniques to eradicate half of the tumors located in the head and neck regions of mice. Innovative water microcleaners have been developed that autonomously disperse, effectively capture microplastics, and then rise to the surface, facilitating their removal. Furthermore, a study has concluded that menstrual cycles do not impact women's cognitive abilities.
Tesla's Cybertruck is facing challenges, leading to the introduction of new discounts and a reduction in production levels. Subaru is reintroducing physical knobs and buttons in its vehicles. In the United States, Sam's Club is removing self-checkouts across all its locations and implementing a scan-and-go system, as part of a remodel affecting 600 stores that will also eliminate cashier positions.
The Curiosity rover has discovered carbonates on Mars, suggesting that a carbon cycle was active on the planet in its ancient past. Scientists have found uncommon evidence that Earth's crust is undergoing changes beneath the Sierra Nevada. Furthermore, research indicates that skin injuries might lead to food allergies, as damage to the skin can trigger allergic reactions to antigens that are not located nearby.
Indian students are reconsidering their plans to study in the U.S., causing panic among education loan companies as inquiries have decreased by 50%. In the United States, the Federal Reserve estimates that over 9 million student loan borrowers are overdue on their payments following the resumption of billing. Teen Vogue has made a comment on the situation, stating that the Florida State University shooter highlights the threat posed by radicalized white men to college campuses, rather than student protesters. Just 3 days ago, it was reported that the Florida State shooting resulted in 2 deaths, with the son of a sheriff's deputy being taken into custody.
El Salvador's president has proposed a prisoner exchange with Maduro, offering Venezuelans deported by the U.S. Border crossings have come to a standstill due to Trump's stringent policies. The New York Times criticizes the situation, likening it to the Soviet Union's practice of making people disappear. The Washington Post highlights Trump's assertion of unrestricted presidential authority over immigration. Wired reveals that DOJ is developing a comprehensive database to monitor and track immigrants. The Trump administration has mandated social media vetting for visa applicants with connections to Gaza. China has introduced a strategy to advance its domestic payment system amid ongoing tensions with the United States over trade. Elon Musk has mentioned that Tesla's Optimus humanoid robots are encountering challenges due to China's restrictions on exporting rare earth materials. China's CATL has announced that it has surpassed BYD's record for electric vehicle batteries by achieving a longer range with just a 5-minute charge.
Business of Fashion has announced that Chanel has appointed Kendrick Lamar as its new brand ambassador. In a related story, Anna Jean-Ylan has made history by becoming the first Chinese contestant to win MasterChef Italia, showcasing a remarkable fusion of cultural elements. The BBC has revealed plans for a new documentary titled P. Diddy, The Rise and Fall, which will be available on BBC Three and iPlayer.
SK Telecom has announced a hacking incident that resulted in a partial leakage of user USM data. Google Chrome has decided to keep using third-party cookies. The Washington Post has revealed that sensitive documents, such as White House floor plans, were mistakenly shared with thousands of people in the United States.
LG Electronics has decided to leave the electric vehicle charger market due to a decrease in global demand. Xiaomi has postponed the launch of its inaugural SUV following a tragic road accident. Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers are gaining attention as Tesla chooses not to participate in the Shanghai Auto Show for the 3rd consecutive year.
Malaysia is looking to expand its trade relations with Africa as the threat of tariffs imposed by President Trump becomes more imminent. The White House is nearing agreements on tariffs with Japan and India, although these agreements are anticipated to lack detailed specifics. There has been a significant decrease in the volume of Chinese freight ship traffic arriving at the busiest U.S. ports, which include Los Angeles and Long Beach.
Western Digital has introduced a new recycling method for hard drives that recovers rare earth elements and eliminates the need for Chinese involvement. In the U.S., Walmart is transitioning from using zip codes to implementing honeycomb-style maps to enhance delivery efficiency. South Korea plans to construct the largest offshore wind power cluster by the year 2033, according to the ministry. A recent study reveals that over 100 publicly traded software companies are experiencing significant pressure due to the rise of artificial intelligence. In the United States, an executive order has been drafted to establish a strategy for incorporating AI into the education system for K-12 students. A Columbia University student was expelled for developing an AI tool intended for cheating, but has since raised millions of dollars to transform this creation into a startup. According to Number 10, Starmer does not hold the belief that trans women are women, and the Equalities Minister has stated that trans women should utilize male restrooms. Wild chimpanzees have been observed sharing fruits that have undergone fermentation. California is on the verge of exhausting its supply of license plate numbers. Boeing has announced plans to sell portions of its aviation software division to Thoma Bravo for a sum of $10.5 billion. According to Bloomberg, Google has been paying Samsung significant amounts to facilitate installations of the Gemini AI application. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has stated that films created using artificial intelligence are eligible to win Oscars. Furthermore, The Washington Post has collaborated with OpenAI to improve access to news through the use of ChatGPT.
China and Egypt have initiated unprecedented joint air exercises, potentially altering the strategic landscape of the Middle East. Notably, China's KJ-500 radar aircraft has been deployed overseas for the first time in collaboration with Egypt. A U.S. spy drone with a 7,000-mile range has been equipped with a lethal laser weapon capable of destroying missiles in the air. Furthermore, a leaked memo from the U.S. advises its allies to avoid using Chinese satellite services.
Vance and Modi convened in New Delhi to deliberate on a trade agreement aimed at circumventing U.S. tariffs. The Financial Times highlights that India is facing tariff-related pressure to grant Amazon and Walmart's Flipkart comprehensive market access. Prime Minister Modi advocated for increased defense collaboration with Saudi Arabia, while Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman mentioned a potential $100 billion investment and expressed shared concerns about terrorism. This meeting is part of Modi's discussions with the Saudi Crown Prince regarding trade in oil. Furthermore, a source indicates that India plans to impose a temporary 12% tariff on steel to mitigate the influx of inexpensive imports from China. ARK Invest funds have become the first exchange-traded funds in the United States to incorporate exposure to Solana by utilizing 3iQ's staking ETF. Mantra has announced plans to destroy $160 million worth of OM tokens, with half of this amount coming from the founder of the decentralized autonomous organization, following a significant 90% decline in the token's price. The XRP Ledger Foundation has revealed a serious vulnerability in the latest version of the XRPL JavaScript library.
SEC Chair Atkins emphasizes the importance of establishing a strong foundation for digital assets. Crypto casinos have generated over $80 billion as gamblers find ways to circumvent restrictions. Circle is developing a stablecoin-driven cross-border payment network, with crypto companies seeking bank charters, as Circle introduces a stablecoin orchestration layer. The Washington Post indicates that Trump's close associates are considering advocating for increased taxes on individuals with a net worth of $1 million or more. In the United States, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers warns that Trump's criticism of the Internal Revenue Service could potentially lead to a revenue loss of $1 trillion. The Wall Street Journal notes that Trump is preparing to hold Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell accountable for any economic downturn, although Trump has recently stated that he has no intention of firing Powell.
Cristiano Ronaldo's team, Al Nassr, is aiming to achieve success in the Asian Champions League as Saudi Arabia serves as the host for the finals. Andre Agassi is set to participate in the U.S. Open Pickleball Championships. Warner Bros. Discovery has initiated a crackdown on password sharing for its Max streaming service.
In the United States, Senator Marco Rubio has proposed a significant transformation of the State Department, which includes reducing its workforce and eliminating various bureaus. Concurrently, the State Department is planning to cut 15% of its domestic staff and close 132 offices. More than 150 college presidents have signed a letter criticizing the Trump administration for what they perceive as excessive actions. In the U.S., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is preparing to launch a disease registry aimed at collecting medical records from numerous Americans to study autism.
As YouTube celebrates its 20th anniversary, the platform announces that more than 20 trillion videos have been uploaded. The European Union has imposed a fine of €500 million on Apple and €200 million on Meta for violating Europe's digital regulations. Kotaku has reported that there is a community of players on Roblox who are recreating school shooting scenarios.
The Chinese Coast Guard asserts its sovereign jurisdiction over Sandy Cay in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, the Kenyan president is on a visit to China, marking a shift in the country's focus away from the United States. Additionally, China's military has labeled U.S. and Japanese destroyers as enemy vessels. Delhi, India, is considering reducing the sale of gasoline-powered cars and prohibiting the sale of fuel-inefficient motorcycles in an effort to reduce its reputation as a major polluter. Chinese electric vehicles are gaining a significant edge in the Russian market due to their advanced digital cockpits, according to vendors. At the Shanghai Auto Show, German and Japanese automakers are integrating Chinese artificial intelligence technology, while Tesla is waiting for approval from Beijing to introduce its full self-driving (FSD) system. Waymo has announced that it is providing 250,000 paid robotaxi rides each week in the United States.
Lockheed Martin is developing an enhanced version of the F-35 fighter jet to rival Boeing's F-47. China has introduced a drone equipped with a quantum device designed to detect submarines in the South China Sea. Japan has revealed a railgun capable of intercepting China's hypersonic missiles.
The Indian Army has eliminated 2 gunmen in Kashmir as the search for suspects intensifies following a tourist massacre. In response to the attack in Pahalgam, India has taken several actions, including closing the main border crossing with Pakistan, suspending the Indus Water Treaty, and cancelling visas for Pakistani nationals. Earlier, a manhunt was initiated after 26 tourists were killed by suspected militants in Kashmir. Pakistan has closed its airspace to Indian Airlines and issued a warning against any violation of the Water Treaty, as relations between the two countries continue to deteriorate. Pakistan has also cautioned that any attempt to cut off the supply of the Indus River would be considered an act of war. Trump asserts that Crimea will remain under Russian control while he endeavors to conclude the conflict in Ukraine. He claims that no one is demanding Ukraine acknowledge Crimea as part of Russia and accuses Zelensky of undermining peace talks in Ukraine. Trump urges Vladimir Putin to halt the strikes on Kyiv. Russia's Foreign Minister, Lavrov, indicates that the Kremlin is prepared to negotiate a settlement with the U.S. regarding Ukraine. Axios reports that Trump's ultimate peace proposal necessitates Ukraine's acceptance of Russian occupation.
Trump stated that Israel would take the lead in a military strike against Iran if Tehran fails to abandon its nuclear weapons program. The Pentagon is evaluating a proposal to reduce thousands of U.S. troops stationed in Europe, with officials noting that only Trump has the authority to make decisions regarding U.S.
China supports Iran's participation in nuclear negotiations with the United States, which it describes as bullying, according to top diplomat Wang Yi. Pakistan's finance minister has stated that both China and the United States are considered critical and strategic allies by Islamabad. Just days prior to Canada's upcoming election, former U.S. President Donald Trump remarked that Canada would cease to exist without the support of the United States.
An official has mentioned the possibility of China and Russia collaborating to construct a nuclear power plant on the moon, which would serve as an energy source for a lunar station. China has successfully launched the Shenzhou 20 spacecraft, which includes experiments with superconductors and measures to protect against space debris. Furthermore, President Trump has issued an executive order aimed at enhancing the deep-sea mining industry.
Trump criticizes Rupert Murdoch for Fox News' alleged bias and inaccurate polls following a survey showing his lowest approval ratings ever. A heated argument reportedly broke out in the West Wing between Musk and Bessent. The Trump Organization is marketing Trump 2028 merchandise, raising speculation about a potential third presidential run.
Trump rejects increasing taxes on wealthy individuals, citing concerns that many millionaires might relocate abroad. Trump plans to investigate Democratic fundraising giant ActBlue using the Department of...
In Texas, USA, Governor Abbott has signed the first bill of the legislative session into law, establishing a Texas Doge. California has risen to become the world's fourth largest economy, overtaking Japan. The United States has allocated more than $500,000 towards YouTube advertisements aimed at deterring irregular migration. Apple faces accusations of promoting LGBT propaganda in Russia due to the inclusion of a rainbow flag wallpaper in its latest update. In the United States, the Department of Justice plans to probe physicians who offer transgender healthcare to minors, as announced by the Attorney General. The Meta board has declared that videos criticizing transgender women do not constitute hate speech.
Trump coin experiences a significant 70% increase in value following a special dinner event organized by the president for the leading holders of the token. In a related development, regulators in the United States have decided to ease restrictions on banks engaging in cryptocurrency activities. The Securities and Exchange Commission has decided not to proceed with refiling a securities fraud case against Richard Hart, the founder of Hex.
A recent study has revealed that individuals who experience strokes have significantly elevated levels of microscopic plastics in their bodies. It has been reported that 1/3 of Malaysian children are currently overweight, a situation exacerbated by the country's growing addiction to sugar. Furthermore, there is a noticeable trend among Gen Z, where they are increasingly turning to their peers rather than medical professionals for guidance on health matters.
Meta has introduced live translation capabilities for all users of its Ray-Ban smart glasses. Apple plans to remove its secretive robotics division from the AI chief's responsibilities shortly after relocating Siri. Rakuten Mobile and AST Space Mobile have achieved a groundbreaking milestone by conducting the first-ever video call in Japan using a low Earth orbit satellite and standard smartphones.
Russia's central bank and finance ministry are set to introduce a cryptocurrency exchange. Coinbase is advocating for the cessation of what it terms the war on staking. Additionally, the Wall Street Journal has reported that the World Economic Forum has initiated a new investigation into its founder, Klaus Schwab.
China has instructed the United States to eliminate all one-sided tariffs if it desires to engage in discussions. Pepsi and Mountain Dew, both reliant on imported ingredients, face potential earnings damage due to tariffs, as PepsiCo has expressed. In response, China has decided to cancel 12,000 metric tons of U.S. pork shipments. The United Kingdom's finance minister, Reeves, has stated that the country will not be in a hurry to finalize a trade agreement with the United States.
Apple's attempts to relocate iPhone production away from China are encountering significant challenges. Authorities are obstructing the shipment of suppliers' equipment to other nations, as Apple seeks to produce all U.S. iPhones in India, marking a strategic shift from China. The European Commission has prohibited lobbyists from advocating for Huawei due to an ongoing corruption investigation. Companies like ByteDance, Alibaba, and Tencent are amassing billions of dollars worth of NVIDIA chips. Carnivorous caterpillars known as bone collectors use the bodies of dead animals as a form of camouflage. A study on wild bonobos shows that female bonobos collaborate to preserve their dominance within their social groups. The extinction of giant kangaroos, which weighed around 375 pounds and had restricted movement, is believed to be due to these factors.
The owner of Mashable and PCMag has filed a lawsuit against OpenAI, claiming that the company has misappropriated their content. Character.ai has introduced AvatarFX, an innovative AI video model designed to produce chatbots that appear remarkably lifelike.
The Internet Watch Foundation has expressed concern about a significant increase in child sexual abuse imagery hosted within the European Union, with 62% of all such web pages identified by the IWF in 2024 being linked to the Netherlands. The Wall Street Journal reports that Paramount is in discussions with the Federal Communications Commission regarding potential concessions on diversity policies as part of a merger. Oscar voters are being reminded of the importance of actually watching the nominated films.
Artificial intelligence surpasses virus specialists in laboratory settings. Antikythera mechanism could potentially be a toy rather than a complex device. The BBC has introduced a satellite news channel in Myanmar following President Trump's decision to silence the Voice of America. Hanoi has refuted claims that Washington will ignore the Vietnam War commemoration. The New York Times reported yesterday that the U.S. has instructed its diplomats in Vietnam to steer clear of war anniversary events. The Wall Street Journal mentioned that Hegseth has threatened to administer a polygraph test due to a leak of a classified briefing intended for Musk. Science magazine has announced that the director of the National Science Foundation is stepping down following the cancellation of grants, reductions in employment, and surrounding controversies. A recent poll indicates that a higher percentage of Trump supporters believe in a connection between autism and vaccines compared to the broader public. Furthermore, the United States Department of Agriculture has decided to pull back a proposal aimed at reducing salmonella levels in raw poultry.
A leader from the Rwandan genocide, residing in a prestigious area of New York, has been taken into custody for suspected immigration offenses. The French Prime Minister has urged for stricter measures against knife violence following a deadly incident at a high school, where a student fatally injured one person and harmed 4 others. In the United States, former alleged members of a neo-Nazi group have asserted that their leader is an agent for Russia. This comes 20 days after The Guardian reported that a U.S. neo-Nazi group, led by someone based in Russia, has been advocating for targeted attacks on Ukraine.
The FBI has apprehended a Wisconsin judge for obstructing ICE agents, with Kash Patel and Trump's Attorney General indicating that this arrest is merely the start. The Trump Department of Justice has instructed ICE to enter homes without obtaining search warrants. Furthermore, Venezuelans facing removal under wartime regulations have a 12-hour window to challenge their situation. In another development, a judge in New Mexico and his wife have been arrested for allegedly concealing a Venezuelan gang member in their residence. North Korean cyber operatives established fake U.S. companies to deceive cryptocurrency developers. A suspect linked to the Scattered Spider hacking group has been extradited from Spain to the United States. Iran claims it successfully repelled a significant cyber attack targeting the nation.
The Trump administration has initiated an investigation into UC Berkeley regarding foreign funding. The Wall Street Journal reports that a group of elite universities has formed a private collective to oppose the Trump administration's actions. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia has accused Wikipedia of spreading propaganda and has issued a threat to the nonprofit organization status. In another development, a federal prosecutor in the United States is questioning medical journals about potential bias. Goldman Sachs warns that U.S. tariffs might put 16 million export jobs in China at risk. According to Reuters, a report indicates that imposing tariffs on U.S. pharmaceuticals could lead to an annual increase of $51 billion in drug costs for Americans. Trump asserts that he is in trade negotiations with China, a claim that China disputes. Google's AI overviews have expanded their reach to over 1.5 billion individuals each month. Google has introduced a new AI model designed to interpret dolphin language. Baidu's founder has noted a decrease in the demand for DeepSeek's text-based AI solutions. California is considering permitting the testing of autonomous heavy-duty trucks. Chinese media criticizes Trump for making untrue claims about ocean pollution. A U.S. agency has relaxed certain safety regulations for self-driving vehicles, causing Tesla's stock to rise significantly. The World Liberty, supported by Trump, and the Pakistan Crypto Council have joined forces to enhance blockchain and decentralized finance. A letter penned by a Titanic survivor while on the ship has been sold for almost $400,000. Steven Spielberg, Robert De Niro, and Morgan Freeman have expressed their admiration for Francis Ford Coppola as he receives the AFI Life Achievement Award.
A recent report indicates that military spending in East Asia has experienced its largest increase in the past 15 years. A government report has disclosed that the United States nuclear arsenal is projected to cost $946 billion over the next decade. Furthermore, U.S. analysts have expressed concerns that a Russian satellite associated with a nuclear weapon program seems to be out of control.
Trump asserts that American vessels should be permitted to navigate the Panama and Suez canals without incurring any fees. China has issued a warning to the United States, claiming that its deep-sea mining initiative contravenes international legal standards. Japan has initiated discussions with the United States regarding a one-theater strategy for the Indo-Pacific region, suggesting a unified approach to addressing security concerns in the Korean Peninsula, as well as the East and South China Seas.
Zimbabwe aims to achieve electrification for 3.1 million households and provide access to clean cooking for 70% of its population by the year 2030. In the Philippines, the Bulusan volcano has erupted, sending ash into the sky at a height of 4.5 kilometers. A flood has occurred in the river Jhelum following an unexpected release of water by India, which has led to panic in the region of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
A significant explosion at an Iranian port, associated with a missile fuel delivery, resulted in the deaths of 14 individuals and left 750 people injured. In a separate development, the United States reported hitting 800 targets belonging to the Houthi group following several weeks of military actions. The Houthi rebels claimed that a purported U.S. airstrike targeted a prison in Yemen, where African migrants were held, resulting in the deaths of 68 people. Volunteer organizations reported that 31 civilians were killed by paramilitary forces in Omdurman, Sudan.
A health advisor from the White House has expressed concerns that weight loss medications are being aggressively marketed to children in the United States. In the realm of entertainment, appraisals suggest that populist leaders are gaining support. Neuroscientists have discovered that children's brains operate in distinct ways when they are reading books compared to engaging with screens.
A Russian military helicopter reportedly entered Polish airspace to test air defense. offenses, according to Poland. The CIA has announced that the son of one of its officials was killed while engaged in combat in Ukraine. The Institute for the Study of War ISW, reports that Russia is planning to use motorbikes in its summer offensive to counter drone threats.
A recent report indicates that approximately half of the American population continues to reside in areas with elevated levels of air pollution, which presents significant health dangers. A study has revealed that the consumption of ultra-processed foods in the United States is linked to 124,000 premature deaths over a 2-year period. Furthermore, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in the U.S. is on the verge of revoking grants that were intended to safeguard children from exposure to toxic chemicals.
Researchers have successfully constructed the first ever black hole bomb in a laboratory setting. Scientists have engineered an artificial leaf capable of utilizing sunlight to generate valuable chemicals. Furthermore, researchers have achieved the milestone of growing teeth in a lab environment.
The United States and
Google's browser division informed a judge that only Google is authorized to operate Chrome. China is developing a space traffic management system in response to the growing number of commercial satellites.
According to Reuters, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is considering establishing a data center project in Brazil, as indicated by sources. Tencent Music is reportedly in negotiations to acquire Ximalaya for a sum of $2.4 billion. Furthermore, Elon Musk's company, XAI Holdings, is in talks to secure $20 billion in funding. This comes a month after Musk combined XAI and X to form XAI Holdings. China and the Philippines are displaying their flags on a contested sandbank in the South China Sea, while Philippine forces have landed on a disputed feature in the area. The Philippines claims that China has not taken control of the contested reef. In another development, Pakistani military forces have killed 54 militants who were trying to enter Pakistan from Afghanistan.
Rubio asserts that the sole resolution to the conflict in Ukraine lies in negotiations where both parties are willing to make concessions. Russia declares the full liberation of Kursk, acknowledges receiving assistance from North Korea, and North Korea verifies sending troops to Russia, praising them as heroes. Trump suggests that Putin might not be interested in peace